the pitch afterwards, an incident with Kunai Aguero. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But it's Wigan who are through to face Southampton in the quarter-finals. Manchester City are out. Lots of different talking points in this game. Let's just focus on the overall match.
Yeah.
Strong shot, one goal. Manchester City out.
I mean, Paul Cook is doing a good job at Wigan, right? But strong team from City. They would probably have won this game, I think. It's not stating anything out of the obvious, but Delph's challenge was stupid. Now, we've talked about challenges on the City players quite a lot in this show because there has been a lot of bad ones. This was a bad one from a City player. The Wigan player's a little lucky that he missed them because his boot was high, probably around halfway up the shin, and it could have been dangerous. So, no qualms, it was a straight red.
But it seemed to be the players that gave him the red card as opposed to the referee. Anthony Taylor initially getting the yellow, and it just seemed to be the players persuaded him to eventually send Delph off.
Anthony Taylor is going to have to be the one who answers to that, because without question, he did have the yellow card out. It seemed to be showing, and you thought that was yellow. But from the time the challenge came in, as I mentioned in your highlight, this had all the hallmarks of being a red card. Why the referee then changes his mind, again, that's for him to explain. But it's a red. And Pep Guardiola, for all his complaints, and he's right, he said when he's complaining about the challenges on his players, this wasn't about protecting the good players. This wasn't about protecting the City players. It was about protecting all the players. And as a result, Wigan players have to be protected. That was an awful challenge and deserving of a red.
You know, you see football committees in particular trying to enforce, respect the referee, you know that his decision is final. But you can understand why players do that, because it obviously makes a difference.
Of course it does.
If the Wigan players didn't do anything...
Yeah, and of course it does. And referees are human. And so when they see that reaction, they're like, oh my goodness, did I mess this up? Now you start doubting your first decision, because his first decision was to bring out the yellow card. And then once he sees that reaction, there's a little bit of pressure. Players are all around you. You think to yourself, that was actually bad enough. Here comes the red. I think that's what Guardiola is upset about. Not the fact that he's given a red, but the fact that there was a yellow to come out, then the players get on top of the referee, and now here comes the red. The truth of the matter is that for any cup competition, in order for a lower league team to have an opportunity to beat a team like Manchester City, things like this need to happen. A red card, something that changes the natural course of the game. And then the natural course of the game changed, because now it gives Wigan life. It gives them a reason to fight in the second half, and then they got the one shot, they scored the one goal, Manchester City came up short.
We should remember that referees work as... And the ref's always the focus, but they work as a team.
Sure.
Yes, the Wigan players were around them. I'm guessing what happened here was, through their earpiece, that either the referee assistant on that side or the fourth official has said to him, listen, you might need to have a rethink here. That was bad. And I think he's got it through his earpiece, and then he's taken a bit of time and he's changed his mind. I think Guardiola is upset by Paul Cook, but I think Paul Cook was gesticulating to the fourth official.
Yeah, he was giving the old...
He was giving it that, and I think that's what rattled the City manager. Now, we could probably go back in time with tapes at some other point and find Guardiola doing the same thing, because that's what managers do. You know, they're very hypocritical. But that's what fired him off, and then that's what ultimately was the little sort of...
So, tunnel bust-up, big deal or not? Obviously, it's gone viral.
It wasn't a bust-up. It wasn't a bust-up. It was
just an argument, just a...
Yeah, lots of people in there, no punches thrown as far as I can see. The City manager tried to talk to the Wigan manager. They're having a discussion. I don't think there was any bust-up at that point. I don't know.
And then he seems to charge at the referee as well, right at the end of the clip. It's just kind of... These are normal things that we just don't see.
In my opinion, yes. These things happen far more often than the game would like to admit. No punches were thrown, words were exchanged. Half of the cost.
The difference is that more often than not, we don't get access to this piece. We don't get access to what happens once they go into the tunnel. But clearly, there is some frustration from Guardiola's perspective. There's some frustration from the manager from Wigan, Paul Cook, as well. And so these things are going to happen. And the difference is that now we got to see it.
Under normal circumstances, I think, had that been the Premier League, I think they would be saying, because I haven't worked with the guys, the match directors and that, they're trying to get the cameras in there all the time, in dressing rooms, in tunnels, all this stuff. I think they would say, nah, no more, if it was a Premier League. I think the FA would normally do it, but this gives a little bit of juice to a competition that has been flagging. So ultimately, I think we might see some more cameras in these areas. But
Some more bust-ups.
Some more bust-ups. But had the FA Cup been flourishing, that would probably have been dragged.
Was this a simple equation as to why Manchester City didn't win? 11 against 10. It gave Wigan 11 players.
Well, they defended well, and City's... Until when De Bruyne came on, they started putting some really clever balls in, as you'd expect, right foot, left foot. But they were a little sloppy in the final third, and it's difficult to break these lower league teams down. Sometimes the guys are fighting. It's their big day. It's their big day. They're playing the best team in England, and it's difficult sometimes to break them down.
When you're a team like Wigan, you go out there saying, let's just give ourselves a chance. Keep ourselves in the game. That's what they did through the first 45. Then comes the Delph sending off. And all of a sudden, you do get that chance, albeit through a Kyle Walker error. But that's Wigan's game plan from the get-go, and it worked perfectly. You know, I read nothing more into it from a City perspective, and I give Wigan credit for doing as they set out to do and getting the result.
End of an era for City?
Already? That's it? We're done? I'll tell you what it is. It's end of an era in terms of watching FA Cup. Wigan Athletic now against Southampton.
Look at the magic of
come
the
on.
cup.
The romance.
Where else are you going to see a bust-up, a tunnel bust-up?
I just want to talk about another incident which we saw right at the end.
Yeah.
We saw the fans coming onto the pitch, which often happens in these kind of giant-killing matches in the FA Cup. An altercation then between Kun Aguero and a fan. It looks like a fan approached Aguero. Aguero seems to be throwing a punch towards him.
I've just seen some of the English journalists, one in particular, Darren Lewis, tweeting out that, and they're seeing more footage straight away, that it's not, appears at the moment it's not a punch, it's a push.
Right.
It's pushed the fan away who was in his face. The demarcation lines of the pitches are there for all to see. That's for players, the stadium's for the fans. Right, now, whether down the line they find some footage of Aguero doing something, I don't know. A fan of any club should not be on the field when the players are still in the field. It is a safety issue. Now, we can talk about don't react and do react and over the top and all that. The supporters of any club in any league in any country should not be on the field. The demarcation lines are there, and they're there for a reason.
But didn't we see the scenes when Bristol City beat Manchester United, all the fans coming on? It seems to be a great moment, no?
It is. And from a fan's perspective, you want to sympathise. But at the same time, it's an emotional game. Kun Aguero is leaving the field, one set of emotions. Fans are coming on with another. If you're asking players not to antagonise the fans when they're in the stands, not to do stuff to get them further riled up, then the very least you could expect from fans is to do the same. To then come over not only just come over the hoardings and broach those lines of demarcation that Craig's talking about, but then come into players' personal space and antagonize them, you're asking for trouble. And the silly thing about all of this is, regardless of what happens, regardless of what footage comes out, somehow Kun Aguero will be made out to be the bad guy here. And he should not be. Absolutely, this is down to the fans. This is down to Wigan Football Club failing to control their fans. I understand the emotion, but they have a job to do.
If you put yourself in Kun Aguero's shoes, you don't know what this fan's intentions are. When they are storming onto the field, you don't know what this person has in his pocket or not. Well, you don't know. And we can sit here and say, well, that would be an overreaction to think that something's going to happen to him. Well, you don't know that. And so you're going to defend yourself. And the moment that there's people that cross the line to try to jump you as a player, you are well within your rights, at least in my opinion, to defend yourself. So if a fan is pushing me, I'm going to push back, I'm going to defend myself, and then we'll sort it out some other time.
You're absolutely right. I mean, people always, and if, you know, if you put anything on social media about it, people will say, oh, but nothing's happened before. And as Ali said, as a player, you don't know. There is always a first time for everything, with some clown who's on the juice and doesn't know what he's doing, comes on, he's got something in his pocket. Right? It will happen at one point unless it's stopped.
I just want to bring Gab Marcotti quickly into the conversation. Quick, Gab, sorry.
Aguero's got every right to go and look after himself. I think you guys are being a little bit over the top about fans running onto the pitch and Wigan failing to control their supporters. It's a joyous thing. The game is over. But, yeah, Aguero's got every right to look after himself. I think it's a little bit over the top about the guy who might have something in his pocket. I don't know, Ali, when you go to the mall, do you worry that some random dude might have something in his pocket, and so do you shove everybody who comes into close contact with you? Come on now.
Ask Monica Seles about it. How did that work out for her?
On that note, just a reminder, Manchester City looking to bounce back then after that defeat against Wigan on Sunday as they'll be taking Arsenal in the Carabao Cup final. That game live on ESPN, coverage starting at 11:25 Eastern.